Hey everybody, welcome back to the CAF Plus channel. We've got a very interesting show for you tonight. A sale that was recently announced, not just 2 or 3 weeks ago, is going to be taking place on the 26th of this month, and it's a special collection, partial collection from Guillermo del Toro, and his something that he's been collecting for several years, and circumstances have put him in a position where he has decided to work with Heritage on auctioning off some of that collection. So I've got Joe Maddalena, who we've not had on the channel for over 4 years, probably over 5 years, I think is what we were talking about in the green room. So I want to welcome Joe to the show, and we'll get this thing started. Hey, Joe.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great, man. So it's you know, this is something that we talked briefly about in San Diego, as part of the sale. So it's really great to kind of see the catalog of pieces that are there. It was nice to preview a few things at San Diego in person. I mean, it was wonderful that you guys were able to show off a Wrightson and a few other pieces there. But this is we don't have a lot of event type of sales or auctions like these, and I feel like having a collection from Del Toro is rises to the status of something that can be considered an event, a level auction in our hobby. And I don't know, I really enjoy it because it brings a little bit of different eyeballs to our hobby, but also kind of recognizes somebody for their, like Guillermo, who's clearly put a lot of time in a collection of this magnitude.
Yeah, I mean, Guillermo's collected his whole life. I mean, he was born a collector. And, I think, as his career went on, his collecting taste changed. And, he built these museums, Bleak House, and it started out in one home and stretched into multiple homes where he had these immersive museums in his house. And, he had exhibits at LACMA in Mexico and Minneapolis. And, he's toured the collection. The collection is vast, 6,000 plus objects, that comic art, illustration art, props, costumes, and, other things. And I think Guillermo is 60. And, he's kind of at a point where the fires really affected him in Southern California. And he realized that, like, he's a custodian of these objects. They don't go with him to the afterlife. And we talked, and we made a conscious decision to select a wide cross section of material that reflect his career and also his collecting interest.
Right. I mean, I think that's part of what's interesting about the lots that are in here. They're not just art, they're not just props. You have you've got things that were significant to him, but also like that Harryhausen model that he hand painted himself as part of this auction. So you actually can have something that he's put a little bit of his own creative juices into as well.
The fact that you had that on your bumper, so that's a funny piece because I can't tell you how hard that was for him to part with.
Yeah.
Maybe harder than a Wrightson Frankenstein played, because Guillermo paints every Sunday, and it's really the love of his life. I don't know how much everybody knows about his filmmaking process, but Guillermo is a practical effects guy, not so much CGI. Does not an AI guy. So he builds worlds, right? But Guillermo's on a set painting, hammering. I mean, he's involved. I mean, he's that kind of person. So he had given me a different model for the auction, and then he's like, I'll give you the Harryhausen. And then we've had more dialogue about this model than we have about anything else in the auction, because at first I put it in for $1,000, and he's like, no, I can't sell it for $1,000. It meant too much to him. But if you ever wanted something, a collector that I can tell you means an enormous amount to him, that is one of the pieces that just is so near and dear to his heart.
Well, there was something about that piece that, made me feel like it needed to be as a part of the intro at the end, to kind of
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just for that reason. Because for me too, I mean, I think a lot, I talk about it a lot here on the channel. A lot of the people who collect, original art, props, et cetera, they're creatives as well, right? I
sure.
went to art school. I mean, they're people, they're painters, they're musicians, whatever. And Del Toro, he's the epitome of that. He embodies it. And here's that. He's his sketch from Kronos that's a part of this. He's clearly creatively heavily involved in all of the work that he does, and it shows, in his tastes as a collector as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was the right piece to kind of put in there. But we were talking a little bit before the show. Can you explain like the nuances, the difference between a Hollywood and entertainment signature auction with Heritage versus a comic art or comics signature auction at Heritage? A little bit,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
starting prices and that sort of thing.
Sure. So we have 52 departments, and each department handles things a little bit differently. Some departments had estimates. Some departments, like comic books and comic art, have no estimates, and everything starts at $1. Sports has estimates, and things start at 25% of the low estimate. So every department is different. Entertainment has always had opening bids. So we select a number, which is theoretically the reserve. We try to keep it low enough that that we can that we expect vibrant bidding, because it's not as cut and clear as a lot of other things where you can look at a burn expend page and say, oh, that's $42,000. What is a Ray Harryhausen, Guillermo del Toro painted model kit worth? $500, $5,000. Yes, they're both right. It's up to you to decide. So we try to, like, it's the balance of having opening bids that are attractive enough, but also that would get somebody like Guillermo to even entertain selling things, because this has nothing to do with money for him. This is more about, so just to go back for a second, I've known Guillermo for many, many years, and we've talked about him selling things for a decade. Guillermo has never sold one thing, not one thing. Okay, so this was a major, before the fires. We had talked about putting 10 things in an auction to kind of test the waters to see where things were. And I was flying from my home in Colorado to California to see him. And halfway on the flight, he texted me, "Don't come. The fires are raging." And I'm like, I'm halfway there. It's kind of too late. So I landed, drove to his house, and it was kind of surreal because he was in the middle of post production on Frankenstein, and fires are a mile away, raging, heading his direction. And he pulled out the ILM editing crew and everybody that was in his studio, and they started evacuating the house. I
Hmm.
walk in, he's sitting in the living room, art piled up everywhere, taken off the walls, and a very beaten Guillermo, like just looking at me like, fuck this. Like I can't, like this is like the fifth fire that's chased him. Right. He moved from Calabasas, Thousand Oaks, like fire, fire, fire. I used to be in Calabasas, fires
Hmm.
everywhere, Malibu fires. So you kind of get to a point where you're like, for him, these items are like his children. They're so important to him. He wants to get some of them back into collectors' hands, and to share them with people, because he realizes that he's like an acolyte, as he calls himself. This is all temporary. He's a custodian. And if you watch some of the videos that we have online, interviews we did with him, he talks about that. And I can tell you this, there's 135 items in the auction, I think. I think it took us 3 months to select those. Every month it would change. We had 20 items and it became 50 items. Then we like started from scratch and started all over again. It was like making a movie with my friend. So literally, and then he started directing. Then it was like, oh, I gave you this from Pan's Labyrinth, but this goes with it. Now we need to do the Pan's Labyrinth suite. So we started building out suites. So we starting with Mimic, and we ran through Frankenstein and first dealt with his career. And then we thought, okay, now what about the collection? Because it's separate from your career. And then we that's the second part of the catalog, is the collection. So it was really fun. Every single piece, there was a thought behind it. There was a reason behind it. He wanted to have a wide representation. He wanted to represent artists and authors he loved. So I think it's a unique perspective where somebody who is so knowledgeable built this auction literally piece by piece, and it has a beginning, middle, and end.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, he clearly cares about all the pieces that are in his collection. And I've watched, I think, the majority of the videos that were out there, the AP interview as well, and, um, it's interesting, learning a lot of learning things about him based on the things he collects, his love for Disney, he has a lot of the Haunted Mansion material. All of that's fun, and it really kind of gives you a better understanding of how he 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 views the world, how he views his place in the world, and really how he got started. I mean, when he's energized and interested about Haunted Mansion when he's, five
Loves it.
5 years old or something, I mean, that says a lot about somebody. I mean, most kids would be frightened to death about wanting to go into a Haunted Mansion at that age, but he's very different,
Oh,
and
he'd live in one if he could buy a haunted mansion and live in it. He'd move tomorrow. He that's just who he is as a person. This is his. I learned a lot. I've known him for years, and this year I've spent more time with him than ever. And we'll spend days together, and it's like these two guys having a beer, just talking about like why they love stuff. And it's fascinating because I've asked him like, can you separate the collector from the director? Because you guys seem so intertwined. And you really can't, because like that's such his collecting is such a part of his movie making. It's all the inspirations of these, Corbin and Wrightson and Kirby, and that they're so important to him visually. So you'll see that in his films. It's fascinating.
yeah. No, I'm with you out there. I think that, um yeah, I've enjoyed just kind of going through the catalogs and just hearing him talk, and then, knowing, that he's on the board of the Lucas Museum, getting to see as much as it was cool seeing Lucas speak during that panel, the things that Guillermo said, the way he talked
He was
about the art,
great. Yeah.
and I thought he was far more eloquent and to the point. He made me think about why I read comics when he
Yeah.
starts talking about it as these are our myths, and that this is something that's gone on for eons, right? As
Yeah.
storytellers
Storytelling.
and
Storytelling.
consumers of narrative arts, right? And it made me think like, shoot, man, he's right.
Yeah.
It's he,
Yeah.
he's got it, and it gives us all, I think, a different perspective on what we do and why we collect what we collect and why we read what we read and the significance of that. It's something that we as a culture and a society need to get by in some ways, but it shapes us like it shaped him, and
Yeah.
you realize it's shaped each one of us in one way or another from the things that we've consumed reading comics and Tolkien and you name it. We're here based on all of those things, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
it's
it's interesting. So, before we go into what the goodies are, one of the things that Guillermo talks about is his process. So, I'm going to just go back to the filmmaking for a minute. So, Bleak House is a series of homes that are totally from floor to ceiling covered with artifacts, inspired by the Dickens Bleak House. The walls are painted oxblood. Everything is the same, and they're very Victorian, creepy feeling. Guillermo doesn't let many people into the houses. It's a solitary world for him. And what he does is when he's in the creative mode, he goes into his library, he gets a library cart, and he goes, Lovecraft, Dickens, Tolkien, like you were describing, and takes enough books. And he sits at his dining room table, which is where he works by himself. He doesn't have an assistant, doesn't have a housekeeper, he does all this himself. He loves it. He hangs everything, he gets the frames made, everything is he just is involved in every aspect of this. And he tells me he'll start reading, he'll just start picking up books, and he'll start getting inspiration again. And it's all of those Edgar Allan Poe, it's that world, that crazy mind of his, and that's how he kicks it into gear, and that's how he starts his process. One of the things in the auction that's my other favorite thing is there's a notebook. When he was doing Mimic, 97, I believe, he was in Venice, and he had time and went out and bought, a couple dozen of these beautiful leather-bound handmade notebooks. And if
mhm.
you've ever seen Guillermo's exhibits, Guillermo is like Kurosawa. He's a prop master. He's a makeup master. He's a writer. He's a director, and he's an artist. So Guillermo takes these notebooks, starts writing dialogue, starts painting and drawing sets, worlds, creatures, and they're his blueprint for when he starts scripting. So he handed me, he only has a few left, and he handed me one of them and he said, "Do you think we should include one of these in the auction? They're so important to my career." A blank one. And I said, "We need to do something special." So he wrote this amazing inscription that you all can look at it in the catalog. And it's such like, and he drew this great caricature of himself, but he basically talks about how the siblings of this notebook created Shape of Water and Frankenstein and Hellboy. And now is your opportunity as an artist. It's your write your dream. And I like the fact that like he went to that extreme to make sure that the journey could also be part of this auction. I just think it's incredible. This thing is incredible.
This is one of the lots that I actually didn't look at because I wasn't sure what it was. So,
Oh, it's phenomenal. Well, good.
and
Read what it says. It's phenomenal.
yeah, no, this is wonderful. That's funny. I had no idea what that was. I just assumed it might have been a prop, but
May it
that's
become as sacred and cherished as it is its siblings have been for me. That's his whole process of these notebooks. Like
wow.
every that it's like there. If you ever get to see another one of his exhibits, his notebooks, they're incredible. So that's the extent of like, and you can look. This started in January when we started this process. That was like in January 25th. That's when like the fires are not too far over with. We're starting to build the auction.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Uh, yeah, well, I think the fires affected a lot of folks. I mean, there were a few collectors that we know of that had parts of their collections taken from them, and others who had to pack a lot of it and get and move on. So you just can't even begin to imagine the people who collected. It's back to anything. They could be collecting coins or Beanie Babies or whatever. The idea that so many things that were uh, important to people enough to collect are got lost in the fire. I mean,
Oh,
just
it's
not
all.
meant to just their lives changed because of it, but it's it is tragic. And yeah, when you have what Guillermo has, you can understand probably why he wrestled with it as he did,
Well,
and it was
I,
the first time.
I think there were eight of us at the house, so we had six vehicles, and we only had a few hours, and we just stuffed them. No packing, no bubble wraps, sticking wherever you could shove something because we had to evacuate, right?
Hmm.
And then it was so maybe we rescued a couple of hundred items out of 6,000. So that's when the moment became like, I have to do something different. I just spent 5 years moving these here from another fire zone. What am I going to do? Move them to another country? So I think that was part of the process.
Sure. And we had talked about the idea that, before the show started, but, what are his options? He can give them to a museum. He can put them in a traveling show. He can put them in, or he can sell them, or he could keep them and roll the dice. I mean, I think that the idea of being able to put these pieces back into collectors' hands is, it makes sense to me rather than
Yeah.
putting it into a museum where they could not they might be seen once every 5 years, so, that a
Yeah.
piece of art
If
or a
that, right. Right. If that. And I think also for him, it was like, like this is how he acquired them one at a time. So I think the fact that it's picking out them and reselling them one at a time is kind of cathartic for him. I think this is he enjoys this process. I mean, it's like it's like I've learned a lot. It's just like I've learned a lot about like how attached people we become to our collections, and just how
Mhm.
much like especially to him, how much these things mean to him. Everyone has a story. Every piece has a story. So again, for me, we're going to be, so just get this out of the way, we're going to do three auctions. The collection has 6,000 objects. That's not including like library. Object would be something that's an original piece of art, a prop, something that was of substance. There's probably tens of thousands of things, right? So, but of 6,000 important things, we're probably going to trim the collection by a third. So I
Mhm.
think by the time we're done after the third sale, 12 to 1,500 objects, will have left the collection. And I think that'll be it. I think at that point in time, he'll either do something probably with a museum, a more formal, place for the collection. But I think like this is the window of like it opens and closes after the third sale.
Right, right. Well, I mean, that's, I think we should just feel, good that we have the opportunity to have some of these things and that it isn't just artifacts from comics and illustration and movies, but also a few pieces of Guillermo that, you're
Yeah.
not gonna get, any other way that could have been left to family or whatnot, and, no, and he's become an icon for so many of us, not just because he worked on the Hellboy movies, it's his
Yeah.
creativity across the board on
But,
all
but but if you
he
look at
does.
Hellboy, look at the Magnolia concept art. That doesn't
Mhm.
exist anywhere outside of his collection. Like he's never, I gotta just keep repeating, he's never sold anything. The Pan's Labyrinth art, he's never sold anything. It does, if it's out there, didn't come from him. It went out some back door or something. But anything like this is it. So like the Magnolia, the Hellboy concept art, I mean, it's incredible. Like Mike is transitioning a comic into a movie. It's a difficult process. Like you're taking something that's one thing and trying to continue to make it, to keep it one thing, but make it something unique and different. It's not so simple. Sometimes these movies go really bad.
Yes, exactly, and I was just trying to pull up some of those because I did highlight a couple. We might as well look at them now when you're talking about them. Just,
Yeah,
these are well, they're exactly what we would expect out of, Mike's work because, I mean, this is what we look at in every day on CAF and, and on the internet, and then to see him kind of pulling together set designs for, Guillermo, these are just so darn cool. I mean, and
yeah.
again, you've never seen anything like this out of Mike before, right?
No, no,
This
no.
is
And
so
it's,
unique.
it's so unique and very specific. I mean, he's Guillermo and him are working about transitioning, creating moments in the film. I mean, this is not just, oh, draw some art for me. This is about how can I bring this scene to life? How is this scene going to play out for the cameras? How can I transition, these characters again from a 2D comic book world to a 3D movie? It's completely different. So I love them. They're fabulous. In the beginning, there was one in the auction. It was like, and it was painful because these were things that were really hard for him to part with because they are his craft. It's not like, oh, I had a guy do a sketch at a con for me, which is still good. This is different. This became these amazing movies.
Right, and he's working with somebody. I think he mentions even in the little clip that we're gonna show that, that Mike is to him the penultimate, creator that he admires more than any other, and he admires many, but Mike he holds, very, with a high level of regard, and
Yeah.
the idea that he got to work with Mike in this way, I mean, he's converting Mike's, comics into film, but then to be able to work with him on trying to make sure, the set designs are right, and just the idea that he can sit down next to someone who he almost doesn't, view as an equal, as somebody who can envision things in a way that maybe he might not have been able to do on his own, and it makes sense. But what a wonderful! I can see. I would never want to let go of these pieces either, right?
They're pretty special. I mean, like everything when you start going through the catalog and you realize, wow, like if you take a movie and look at what's there, you're like, these are really important elements.
Yeah. Yeah, all of this is just so amazing to get to see, and because we're used to we see stuff pop up on Heritage, of course, for set design concepts and, character designs, and, sometimes you might see something from a Narnia, whatever, but this is stuff that we can identify with because
Yeah.
it involves comics that we've read, films that we've seen, and an artist that we know really well, and getting to see how they were envisioning translating their comics into film. It's just
In
uh,
the process, right? So what's
right,
great about
right,
these, it's in the process. So it's not like these are done 10 years after the movie came out. You're seeing stuff in the process, which is so important. That's why these are so rare. I mean, they're like this is production art. This is in real time. Like, oh, I have this idea for Abe Sapien. I want it to feel like this, or like when he decided to create Big Baby. I mean, like how do you bring that to life?
right, right, exactly. No, I'm
Totally. The Samaritan, how do you bring that weapon to life? Like these
mhm.
are tough. Again, you could have went really wrong with some of this stuff.
Yeah, very true. And one thing I know I have the link to the to the auction in the show description, but I might as well put it in the chat too. So anybody who wants to not read the show description, and you can get the link to the auction from there as well. But yeah, I'm with you, and I saw Peter Rose said, Winsor McCay's Gertie the Dinosaur. I mean, that has a story, about it that Guillermo would see it every day, reminding him of the first animated film. All of the those things. There's everything's like you said already. Everything's very personal to him in the pieces that he's selected for this first,
Yeah, right.
first part of a three-part auction
Yeah.
set,
Even
and
the Disney material, like to go through and be like, for him to part with Kay Nielsen, that was really hard. I
hmm
mean, when with those Kay Nielsen's were like, so we were sitting one day and we were talking, and there was a few of us there, and they were asking him, and he's like, so how painful is this? He goes, like, Joe took my blood, you know, and then like, the second one's going to be awful, and by the third one, it's like, some days he'll like get mad at me, it's just like, go away, because
right,
it
right,
really is
exactly,
like,
because he's going to have to let go of like
it's
5 times this one, 2 more
yeah,
times. That's a
yeah.
lot. If it took him from January until
Yeah,
early summer
I
to kind of
think it'll be easier because he's motivated more now because he realizes that the collection's unmanageable. And I think that if we could shrink one house is the goal, and I still don't think he'll notice. I still think
Mhm.
when we're done trimming, I don't, there's just so much material and it's all fantastic. I just don't think, I think it'll just be, he'll still have an amazing collection that's, you know, a little bit lighter, but I don't think for the average person they would even notice.
Right.
Yeah.
No, not not at all. So before we start looking at things here, I probably should have started the show with this, but because you haven't been on the show in a while, Joe, and I think a lot of people
Sure.
who are in the chat right now and who are going to be watching the show afterwards, aren't familiar with you because we're kind of always focused in on the comic art side of Heritage, which has their set of principles and people who we deal with a lot. But
Sure, sure, sure.
you've been involved in the film prop collectible area, posters for ages, and
Well,
just give everybody a little bit of
technically,
background.
I did comic art auctions before Heritage did.
I
Remember, mine were first. I should have stuck with it, right? So yeah, I've been doing this close to 40 years. I started out with rare books and manuscripts. I've always collected comic books and comic art. I had the first comic book convention in Rhode Island when I was 12, the first baseball card show in New England when I was 13. So I grew up in this world of collecting. Most of what I do is popular culture and entertainment.
Mhm.
I work closely with Jim Halpern and Todd Hignite, overseeing comics. I still have quite a bit of purview over comics and comic art, but more from like, I'm not a direct category, head in that world, kind of like Jim and I kind of like oversee it. So, yeah, I mean, like, I love it. I mean, this is like, and to me, to be able to blend the two worlds together is the best.
Do you miss I think Marcus mentions Hollywood Treasure, and that was, you were like a pioneer for, that
I
type
was
of a
probably
show
15 years too early.
in a niche that was definitely, outside of maybe the Antique Roadshow but that's totally different. You
Right.
guys put a real world spin on
Yeah, we were early. I mean, like I was in reality with like reality was, like there were a couple shows. It was before the world exploded. We were probably 10 years too early, but again, it was the right time. Hollywood Treasure, I think we did 50 episodes. It was 3 seasons. I loved it. But like everything else, everything runs its course.
right, right. And Rich Cirillo in the chat mentions that he bought his first Perez Avengers covers from you over 20 years ago.
I'll
So
give you a 20% profit and buy them back today.
yeah, yeah,
Those were the good old days. It's funny walking around and running into people and being like, "Do you still have that Conan cover I sold you?" Yeah, and it's just like everything was. I mean, I'll just give some perspective. So in the old days, when I used to go to San Diego Comic Con, I don't even believe Heritage was there, other than the small comic alley, and I had comic art solely. I had burn X-Men pages from the main run. They were $3,500 a page. I couldn't sell them. Okay, that was top of the market. Market was $2,500 a page. I mean,
Yeah.
this is like it was just a different. I had 50 X-Men pages. It was just a different world, you know.
Hmm.
And and I would never. I'm amazed where it's gone, but I'm not surprised. I mean, it's just like because it is one of a kind. It's so unique. And it's probably got a long way to go. Considering the shift of collecting is changing. From modern art, more people are looking at this and being like, this actually is really important culturally. So the shift is happening.
Yeah, no, it took a little longer than maybe some of us thought, but yeah, that's when I started collecting. I used to have 5 Burn X-Men pages, and I know I bought them all for around $2,500 each.
That was the price. And
I
thirty
sold them
five
for
hundred
double
dollars
that. I thought I was
Yeah,
doing great.
you did better than me, but $3,500 was crazy. That was crazy
It
money.
was. No, I agree, and but yeah, so things have come a long way, and it's just that
Yeah,
we're finally seeing this stuff as having true value, not just financially, but culturally.
yeah.
The so many collectors that I talk to, all reference the fact they learn to read from reading comics, right? I mean, it's comics are an important part of our lives,
They were our
whether
friends,
whether we
right? Yeah,
acknowledge it or
they
not.
were our friends. I mean, they
Yeah,
were like that's it's kind of who we grew up with. It's like there's a special place, and if you're of that DNA, that's or if you like me, you have that genetic defect of collecting. It's part of who you are. You can't separate them. You love it. I mean, it's like kind of like how you look at life.
exactly. So we all the thing. So there you go. So I mean, right from out the gate, we all have something in common with Guillermo. Whether we knew it or we didn't. Right? We don't make films,
Yeah,
but we share the same passion for these things. There's I mean, everybody collects for different reasons, but I think at the
yeah.
end of it,
And I'm
there's
hoping for the next auction, he won't, like right now, unfortunately, he's so busy. Fortunately for him, but with Frankenstein. But for the next auction, we're planning to have, either at the Directors Guild or the Writers Guild somewhere, an auditorium, probably have 500 seats, and we'll probably do a 2 hour Q&A. Invite and have the opportunity to like talk to him. So I think that would it's always amazing to hear his insights into collecting. So that we'll plan that for auction number two.
that would be, yeah, fantastic, because a lot
Yeah,
of the interviews that were filmed over the years with him, in Bleak House, he's walking around and he's talking about some of the pieces, and that's special. I mean, we can read
yeah,
about it in the current catalog, but just having him there to say a few words about some of the
yeah,
pieces, I think would be really, really
yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
So before with the first piece, I kind of felt like the clip that I was sent by Heritage was where he talks about Wrightson specifically, and I think in the first piece I'm going to show is a Wrightson. So I thought maybe we should be good to play this clip, and then we can kind of do the preview of the pieces that we've got selected here. All right. So this was you guys did a number of interviews with him and have posted a few, but I guess this is one that didn't make it into those clips.
Exclusive content for you, Bill.
That's right. Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
Well, without being presumptuous, I think that the Bernie Wrightson Frankensteins, all of them, are essential to the iconography of that particular myth. So, if you choose any of the around 50 something that he made, 90% of them are essential to the creation of that myth. I think that definitely is there. I think that if it comes from a movie of mine, I would not venture an opinion. But if you have the Giger, for example, you can change the creature design before Giger and after Giger. The way you can change makeup effects before Jack Pierce and after Jack Pierce, Dick Smith, Rick Baker, Rob Bottin, all the real superstars, and the younger generations, we feel the impact of that legacy, and Giger is one of them. And I think Mignola, my opinion, is one of the top. I mean, he is my Olympus. He's in my Olympus along with many of the great Jack Kirby, Bernie Wrightson, Richard Corbin. So those are names that, in my opinion, are sort of a vocabulary of saints of the work, and you can go piece by piece and articulate things like that.
Yeah, Yeah, I
He's got
love
the
listening
passion.
to.
Yeah,
He does. It's just great hearing him talk about it, and also
yeah,
just seeing again back to those haunted mansion pieces
that's
behind
right.
him. They're just for him to put those things in a spot where he can look at them every day. I mean, I live near Disney. I love it. I think that it's
Well, each
wonderful.
room in Bleak House is different. That's the Haunted Mansion room. There's a Frankenstein room. There's an H.P. Lovecraft. There's so every part of the house is different. There's a Arthur Rackham world. So that's the fun part about it. As you go into these worlds, it's completely different. There's a Corbin room.
Corbin room. I did not know that. I guess I
There's a
missed that.
whole room devoted to Corbin. A whole room. Big
Oh,
room.
that's well, I mean, it had to be done, and he's the one that needed to do it.
Yes, yes.
All right. Well, let's dive into a few of the lots here to talk about. So, this is one that we got to see in San Diego. Currently it's at $200,000, but any of the Frankenstein pieces that are out there are just amazing to behold at any time. It doesn't matter which one they are. Getting to see Wrightson at his peak,
Yeah.
involved in a project that he was so passionate about, and then this one's just spectacular.
Well, I believe there are only 8 plates that have Frankenstein, the published
Mm,
plates of the however there many are in the published 46. I forget the exact number. So you only have 8 times you can get Frankenstein, and there are. This was not in the auction until the very, very end. And I was surprised because he wasn't going to part with any of these. And finally he said to me, how can we have this auction without selling one? And I said, that's what I've been telling you. So it's like, he decided to let this one go, and then we designed the cover of the catalog, and it was interesting because I sent him the galley, and typical Guillermo, he's directing the cover, which is amazing, and he goes, "You need to put the font down at the bottom so the monster is looking at the auction heritage." I was like, "It's fantastic." It's like it was like that. He's like, you should make the font this color. It was an amazing process. But again, it's an incredible. We had Dave Mandel, who we all know, was over the other day, and we were talking about this, and he was like, they just don't get any better. You just these don't come up very often. Thus the price. If you ever wanted one, this is the time to stretch because they're just not out there. And this one is exceptional in person.
Without question. Yeah. I mean, having seen it, but yeah, I think eh, uh, it's funny how he kind of came full circle. Like, I could see you maybe leading with that in an early conversation, and him probably thinking he wanted to hold back, and then he realizes, yeah, you need a piece like this to kind of help kind of set the tone, I think, and this one certainly does, but it had to be one of the more painful pieces for him to let go of because, um, yeah, again, these are impossible to come by,
Yeah,
and
and I think it goes back to his thing where it was like, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do something that I hope people enjoy. Like
mhm,
this was not just throwing a bunch of stuff in an auction. I keep repeating myself, but it's just like every single piece, like we went back and forth and tried to tell a story. And if you show the next Wrightson, I don't know if you have both of them.
I do.
Okay, so interesting. Like obviously you have a different Frankenstein, but um, if you read the book, the Mary Shelley novel, this is so important. Like this narrative on the ice is monumentally important to storytelling of Mary Shelley Frankenstein. So it's another one we thought of. I've been fortunate to see the movie, and this is an important element in the film, and it's an important element in the storytelling. So like again, of when everybody gets to see Mary Shelley, when his version of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, you understand just how important this imagery is. So again, this was selected really for it's important in the arc of the development of the novel.
Yeah, it's just an amazing piece. I mean, you look at all of these, there's pieces that you think you wouldn't think were super interesting, like on a ship or whatnot, that illustration. But there's still when you look at them for what they are, they're just unbelievable uh, drawings by Wrightson, that it's it's just so amazing to have them in our world, right? That you can
Yeah.
actually have them, in your collection and stuff. But this
And
one,
published, right? And published, and so,
right?
like they're not some of the later ones that are on look back, but I mean from the main published, prime time, and the pedigree of coming from Guillermo, because he could have had anyone he wanted. These are
Mhm.
the ones he chose. Again, like he's gone and done all the work for you, like for a collector, because like his eye is so good.
Here's a curiosity question for you. I mean, when something has a pedigree of ownership like that, do you feel collectors? I mean, I would have to think, to me, it'd be kind of cool to own something that Guillermo either drew or once owned. I mean, do you find that collectors see that as something that that's important for the provenance of a piece, having had it pass through a hand of
Yeah, oh,
someone of his stature?
absolutely, absolutely. When that kind of provenance, whether it's directly from an artist that you've acquired something, or you've had that one interaction, if you will. I was lucky in the day I bought stuff directly from Jack Kirby, so that was an amazing experience, right? Because you're buying directly from Jack. And this is
Right.
kind of the same thing where, it's part of, and again, as our hobby develops, as more uh, art collectors start buying things like this, pedigree and provenance is very important, because like when they go to display these things from the collection of Guillermo del Toro, now from the collection of Bob Jones, I mean it takes on a different life.
Yeah, I would have to think that it would. I mean, different than like coming from a collection of a collector, right? This is
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah, yeah.
is a bit different.
It's just a different thing. Neither, and not one is better than the other, but just for what we are doing with this collection, it's kind of like I'm glad these are here.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Whereas this next piece is a right that's a little different than the Frankensteins, but equal to in
This thing
importance
is
for many
this
of
thing
us who grew up, in this
and
era.
it's enormous. It's big, right? And I didn't know he had this, and I knew I turned a corner to go to the bathroom. I'm like, where did you get that? He's like, ah, and he goes, that's the best color piece Guillermo ever did. I mean, Wrightson ever did, and it's interesting because any of your viewers, if you ever had come to my old office in Beverly Hills, I used to have a Bernie Wrightson wall, and you'd walk down, and I had 7 or 8, maybe 10 color Wrightson paintings on one wall. I had
Hmm.
Knuckle Down, I had all the good ones, and like this by far is the best one. And it crosses over into music, because now you've got an album cover, right? So it kind of crosses multiple generations. So it's a Wrightson, it's a great piece of art, it's the right time, but it's a really famous album cover. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, and I had no idea he had this either. So when I first was going through everything, I was like, my gosh, that's just so cool that that he owns a piece of history. I mean, one of the most memorable covers from that
It's
era.
so 5 million albums or something, a lot, right? Yeah.
Right. I mean, who would have guessed? But it's the thing is, Wrightson could do stuff like this, right? Frazetta could make paintings for movie posters. I
Well,
mean, that
but he did the Molly Hatchet, album cover. That was the
right.
Frazetta, right? That sold for $6.5 million. So if you look at this and say 80 grand for Wrightson, it kind of seems cheap for what
Right.
it is.
Exactly. But that's the interesting thing, these artists we're seeing them drawing comic books and illustration, and then having them be able to cross over into mass media, pop culture, Clint, Meatloaf covers, like Molly Hatchet,
Yeah.
Clint Eastwood films, Gauntlet, etc. Uh, we don't get to see that too often, right? Gentlemen like Drew Struzan, who there's several pieces by him in here, kind of took over those markets. But back early on, you got artists like Wrightson painting, record covers, which is just uh,
Amazing.
it is.
Amazing. Right. Amazing. But like Drew Struzan, when we get into that section, those Drew Struzans are incredible. Like if you, in the context
They
of
are.
who Drew Struzan is, those are really nice.
Yeah, no, exactly. Let's see, where I'm not sure. Oh, I know. Okay, I have a Mignola piece. There's quite a lot of Mignola.
Yeah.
More unpublished Mignola, of course, than published pieces. But he certainly has. really nice published Hellboy pages, and this Seed of Destruction splash page is just
Phenomenal.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Love
like
to see this thing in person.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, if you wanted the best of the best, here's one to get. And the Guillermo parting with more Magnolia is going to be very challenging because what's left is I don't know how I'm going to get it out of that house. And it was a miracle. Like this one was a miracle because again, it was like, okay, we have to have one. Like we
Mm-hmm.
have to have something that like this is our running dialogue between us, like him and I, like how do we do this without having one of these? So
Right.
again, I'm just
You
like,
can't.
yeah, it was just, I will say, again, this was for me a once in a lifetime experience. I mean, it was really, I feel very privileged to be doing this and be part of this journey.
Well, I can only imagine how much fun it was. But for us as collectors, whether we're able to bid on some of the stuff or not, I mean, the idea that we get to see it and
Yeah.
experience it and know the process that went into curating it, it's a joy to behold.
Yeah,
And
and I will say, an aside, anybody who's in Los Angeles, we have recreated Bleak House at our gallery. It's open to the public this Thursday night. We have the party. If anybody's in town, you want to stop by from 6 to 8. There'll be Mike Hills coming, who did The Shape of Water, and Greg Nicotero, who did The Walking Dead. There'll be some friends there, mingling. But I mean, everything's on display. The entire auction's in Beverly Hills for another 8 or 9 days. So if you're in Los Angeles, come by and take a look because it's all there.
is it by appointment or can they just
Nope,
show
nope.
up?
Yeah, Monday through Friday, 10 to 5. Just come on over. And this Thursday night, the 18th, the party's from 6 to 8. You come by, have a drink, meet some friends, say hello, and come check out the art and everything else.
See, there's drawbacks to living on the East Coast, Joe.
It's a quick plane ride, Bill.
Yeah, it is. I agree, but boy, this is yeah, this would be great. But there's so many other cool pieces. I know I have a few other pieces by Mignola in here, but there's pieces from his work on Blade 2. I mean, Guillermo was, picked up a lot of interesting stuff. So people who are fans of Mignola are going to get to see things that they
The
might not.
Blade 2 storyboard, though, is exceptional. Like the
Mm,
colored storyboards, like oh, I talked to a lot. No one's ever seen those before, other than one time in an exhibit when Guillermo put them out. Those are phenomenal. There are not very many of those, and he has them all.
well, here I'll stick with something Hellboy, but a prop instead. So, yeah, Scream Use, Big Baby. I mean, this
Yeah,
thing's
it's this big.
awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's like, the story behind it, again, it's what didn't appear in the comics. So Guillermo wanted this element that kind of walked the world of Tex Avery, Walter Lantz, and, again, it's just kind of like, it just worked.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Isn't this I think Mandel, when he was in his preview image, had him holding this.
Yeah.
I mean, who wouldn't want to hold this and get a photograph?
Yeah, Dave was like a kid in a candy store. This was like, we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. So let me address a question. Delight, when I pasted the link to that second Wrightson, the link was so long it actually trimmed it, so I couldn't actually make that link work. So if you follow the first link to the overall auction, you'll everybody will be fine, and I can put that back in there in a little bit. But the link is in the show description as well. But yeah, I learned my lesson. Heritage can have a long link sometimes, Joey, but that's all right. But anyways, this thing's totally cool. If I was there
Totally
and
cool.
I was allowed to hold on to it, I would definitely want to photograph. Or yeah, I'd be very very
So so so
disappointed in
so
myself.
you had this and you had the Samaritan, right? So
Yeah,
he decided like he wouldn't sell two. So it was like, which one do I sell? And we really went back and forth. Like that was a tough decision, Samaritan or Big Baby. And it was like, that was a tough one. This was really in the prop and costume, this was probably the hardest thing for him to part with. Because there's one. There's not like two of these, there's one.
wow.
Yeah.
Well, we're glad that he did.
Yeah, me
Get
too.
out
That's a
there.
great piece.
Yeah. Let's see. I think. Oh, this is a little different, but I know there's a few. kind of
Oh,
Nightmare Before Christmas pieces that are in there, and I just thought this was a really nice one. They both the other piece, at least one of the pieces I remember, is really really nice as well. But tell me about
yeah.
this.
So again, Guillermo, the Nightmare is a very important, world for him, as is Haunted Mansion. There's a lot of Nightmare art out there. When that art was created is a different story. This came from production. If you see this piece and the other piece in the auction, and you look at things that are kind of everywhere, they're just not
Hmm.
the same quality. So this is production. A lot of the things you'll see on the market are post production, but this is production art. Guillermo got it contemporaneously, and he has four of them, and he's selling two. But I mean, it's fabulous. You can see when you look at this and you compare it to some of the ones that are not of this quality, you'll see the difference. This thing's beautiful.
Yeah, it's amazing. What's the
Yeah.
size on some of these? Is this
That's about, like maybe 6 by 6. Yeah, six
Yep.
by seven. Yeah, 7 by 7. Good size. And there's probably a border. It's probably bigger, if you
Hmm.
unframed it. But it's gorgeous. And I will. And aside, so I mean, Guillermo, there's no light in the house from windows. Everything is it is truly like going into a cave, intentionally. There's not a drop of sunlight that gets on these things. He does not have a housekeeper. He cleans everything himself, and he has loved every one of these pieces. Like they're perfect. Yeah, like it's like he's such a good caretaker.
I was going to ask you if that was true. Yeah, because he did say that. Like he used to have a housekeeper, but sometimes he'd find something that was
They
was
broke
broken.
things, the little pieces here and there. No, it's like he does it all. I'll be over there and we'll kind of make a mess, and I'll be like, "Can I help you?" No, I'll do it when you leave. I'm like, "I'll help you." He goes, "I like doing it." It's like, and he just, when after the fire, we brought back hundreds of items and brought them back to the house, and we had taken them to Beverly Hills where they were which was a safe zone away from the fires. And he's like, "No, I'll rehang on myself," and I'm like, "All of these?" So yeah. I mean, these are gorgeous in person. Gorgeous in person. If you
Yeah,
ever
this is
wanted
really
something from Nightmare, go after one of these because they're just gorgeous.
yeah, no, it's amazing. But yeah, cleans everything himself, Peter Rowe. I get it, but it's a there I hate dusting. Yeah, that's the one
It,
thing you have to do a
I
lot
think
of
I
all
think
these.
I think for him it's probably cathartic. There's probably
Yeah.
like it's like he's like this is I think what keeps him sane.
Hmm. Wow. These two pieces are fantastic.
Oh, they're gorgeous. Yeah.
Let's see. Then, I mean, I know that he was a fan of Hellraiser, and to have this pinhead pinup by Mignola from 1990. I mean, uh,
Yeah, that was another one that like he has this one and he has a Hellboy one, and I got to choose one. I could tell if I picked the other one it was going to be probably really painful. We needed to have one in the auction. These are impossible to find. I mean, it's just a masterpiece. I mean, it's everything you'd ever want, in a color piece by Mike.
right. I mean, well, Hellraiser was such a influential horror film, and I mean, I probably would feel the same way seeing it today as I did when I saw it originally. So I can tell why, I understand why like having a piece from the comic, a color piece, but by Mike, which is rare in and of itself.
Really rare, yeah, really
You know,
rare. The color, and from this time period, you just do not see these.
yeah, no, this is
It's
this is
exceptional. Yeah,
moody to say the
yeah,
least. I love it, but the thing is, it's wonderful that he collected what he loved. And it was niche in a lot of ways, horror related, myth intensive, and it's cool to know where some of these pieces went because as collectors, we see these things go on the market once, or like 25 years ago, and then it's gone. And then it's just so interesting and wonderful to see who that he ended up with a lot of these pieces. I just think that's cool.
yeah, for sure.
Now, Corbin's represented pretty well in the auction, and This is from Vic and Blood: The Chronicles of a Boy and His Dog. It's a wraparound cover. But like you just said, I didn't realize that. I guess I didn't read enough in the catalog, so, that he actually has a Corbin room.
Yeah, is a Corbin, like he's like Corbin, Wrightson, Mignola are his holy trinity. It's he loved. I mean, Corbin, it might be top. I mean, it's when you hear him talk about Corbin, he'll tell you it's like when you see a print or when you see a comic, it's one thing, but when you see these in person, when you see the blacks, when you see the use of whiteout, when you see how he designs these, it's incredible. They're just and they're not. You don't good luck getting Corbin art of this quality. It just is. It's not out there.
Yeah. No, no, it's not. And he's got a couple. Where were they? Let's
And I think
see.
there's 2 pages from Hellboy. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and they're fantastic. I
Yeah,
mean,
again, these do not turn up.
no, no. Look at this. I mean, yeah, I think these are fantastic.
Fantastic.
My goodness. And I think, what was the other one? I think Kirby. No, not that one. That was the Crumb. I know I've got another one in here somewhere from him, but yeah, again, these are just amazing to see. And Corbin's no longer with us, and which is tragic because I mean his work is just so darn amazing. And I think we think a lot of his heavy metalish work, right, from that era,
Sure.
the painted
Sure.
pieces, but I love seeing his black and white
Oh
artwork.
yeah, his black and white is the best. And again, we wanted to tell, like again, to tell the Hellboy story, to have Mike and Corbin. Again, it was we really wanted to represent Guillermo's passion for these artists and
Mhm.
tying to his film career, because this is still in the film section, I think. Yeah, no, it's in the back because Corbin didn't work on the film, so this would be in the personal collection.
Okay. And what was the
Magnolia.
other? There were other Corbin pieces other than the Boy and His Dog and the Hellboy pieces, right? I'm trying to remember what those were.
No, I think it's just those
This
three.
is it? That was all? Okay.
Yeah,
Thought
yeah.
there was one other piece or something in there,
I don't think so. I think
but
three.
I didn't select these. But the thing that's also interesting is there's a few Chet Zar paintings, which are probably a
So
lot of collectors.
popular. So
Right, but
popular.
I'll bet you a lot of comic art collectors aren't familiar with Chet's work.
But the Scream, I mean, and they're very inexpensive, but they're so popular. I mean, people come into the gallery and they're like, this one's so popular. It's beautiful, huge. But it's again, this is if you ever get if Guillermo ever does another Bleak House exhibit, no matter where it is, if you get a chance, go. To
Mhm.
see it in person, it's incredible. But when the mixture of these, when you see all of this together, it just kind of makes sense.
No, without question. And then even like the Annie Steck Gerard piece. I mean, I've seen
Yeah,
Annie's work on exhibit in a lot of different places, but it's so cool to know that Guillermo, appreciates her work and has a piece in his collection as well. So, yeah, no, for me as somebody who loves illustration art, it's wonderful to see these pieces and know
yeah.
that you know that they're appreciated by him as well. Let's see here. I think I've got, well, I have some other props and things, but, you have a Moebius piece here from the Incal.
A
Just,
great, like one of his best works. I mean, like again, there's not much Moebius in the collection. Like there's a few personal pieces. There are a couple of other things, but this was again to have just to get one of this quality.
right. Yeah, these pages don't come up too often. I mean, I think we've seen a few in, the international heritage auctions a few times,
Sure.
but even then, they're not quite like this. You might get a good
No.
blueberry page, for instance, but
Yeah. This is a
Hellboy is just so.
phenomenal page. Yeah.
Let's see. I know I've got. I threw some props in here too. Is the Pacific Rim costumes? Just it's just surprising that these found their way into Bleak House.
Yeah, well, there's like full size Frankenstein's in Bleak House. There's, the fawn from Pan's Labyrinth. Bleak House is like it's got everything. I mean, like the angel from Hellboy. I mean, so every movie has a room. So
Hmm.
upstairs and there's Pacific Rim room, and there were three of these. There were two, let's remember now, two black suits and one white suit. And we originally had one in the auction, and then he decided to part with the second one. And then we have the capsule, the escape in the auction. But again,
Hmm.
these are made by Legacy Effects. These are unbelievable works of art. I mean, like I can't even. These probably cost $200,000 or $300,000 each to build. I mean, they're incredible.
Amazing.
Yeah, they're beautiful. And it was a really good movie. They're really cool
I love
costumes.
Pacific Rim,
Yeah,
and that's and there are some I think set design, character design
yep.
pieces from Pacific Rim in this as well.
Wayne Barlow, and there's some maquettes, but the costumes, like if you want something amazing that's real, main character in a movie, like these are Charlie's Hero costumes. They're fantastic.
Oh, yeah. Uh, the thing is, having seen a lot of those interviews and things, I mean, I know he has a lot of full figure creatures, and uh, the Frankenstein smoking a cigarette, all of
Oh, in
that
the
stuff
barber's
is
chair, yeah.
in the
Well,
barber's chair, right?
you walk through
Exactly.
the house. There's full size figures of Edgar Allan Poe, H.P. Lovecraft, Forey Ackerman, the freaks, little people. They're, the Frankenstein, the Bride of Frankenstein, Dracula. They're everywhere, but they're positioned in amongst the world of where these things live. And Guillermo will tell you sometimes he talks to them. He'll be home and like he'll have a conversation with Edgar Allan Poe. It inspires him. I think it's
Might as
awesome.
well.
You might as well.
Oh, man. Well, you mentioned the Arthur Rackham room too, and so,
Yeah.
Rackham is, somebody who's like, one of the fathers of, just, uh,
Illustration art, yeah.
bizarre,
Yeah.
illustration, of this era, and so rare to see in anybody's collection,
Yeah.
but
Well, Tennille, Rackham, and Duloc. So like Tennille would have been Alice from Wonderland. Rackham did Alice as well. But again, this is into like you're into the collector now more than the filmmaker. This is where you truly see Guillermo's eye. Like there are good Rackhams and there are great Rackhams and there are really great Rackhams. This is a really good one. And without spending 50 or 80 grand, at $20,000, this is a real value for what it is. But again, we wanted to have something that represented that part of his collection as well too.
exactly, and this brings in a totally different collector base. They're fans of his films, there's fans of Mignola. But then you're bringing in, true illustration art collectors
Yeah.
who covet Rackham, and again, you don't see these pieces too often, and that's one of the interesting things about this particular auction is that it spans a wide breadth of different types of collectors, from prop collecting to art collecting to historical illustration collecting. I love it, and I know that Heritage probably puts these on in different categories all the time, right? That have this kind of cross appeal. But again, it's back to the being our focus primarily being on comics and illustration and narrative art, so
Yeah.
we don't get to see it. But I think that's great because it's auctions like these, that I think help kind of cross pollinate people. Somebody who's coming in to look at the Rackham has to look at the Magnolas as well, and that helps just
Well, you're
at least.
exposed to something different. It might pique your curiosity because when you start comparing relative value, look at a
Mhm.
Bronze Age cover of X cost, and you look at this and be like, this seems really reasonable for what it is, and it is. And you start doing that value evaluation. And for me, being a collector of comic art and comic books and illustration art and props and this whole world, they kind of all go together. Like that's what Bleak House is. They all kind of live together. And I just think that the more art you see, the better eye you get and the better decisions you make. You just need to see more and more of it, and like then something really stands out. When you see some, if you've seen 50 examples and two are great and 48 are good, you really start to understand like what great is. And I think that's what regardless of price,
Mhm.
and that's what it's about everybody that collects art, you should look at everything just to understand the composition and how these things came about. It's more than just a character.
Well, Agreed. Yeah. It's like I'd love to have a St. John in my collection, right? I mean, there's just
Yeah,
certain artists
of
whose
course.
work I've seen many times that I would love to add, but at least I've seen it. I appreciate it for what it is and when it and the era when it was created, and yeah, I mean, you understand a lot about the evolution
Yeah,
of.
Brundage, Pagoni, all these illustrators like from that
Mhm.
time period, from the pulp world. I mean, they're amazing. You look at these pulp artists, the work's incredible.
Yeah, no, that's so true. Let me take a look here. Oh, well, here's a Stout, William Stout piece. I mean, yeah, I had to pick this one because at first I'm thinking, oh, it's just another Hellboy illustration. Then you just realize how much work Stout put into this thing.
That
It's
may be the best thing Bill has ever done.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little surprising when I took a close look at it because holy smokes, I mean, how important this piece was for him to create because I mean, Stout puts a lot of work into everything that he does, but something
Absolutely.
of this scale, painted as well, this is it's just an incredible piece to see, knowing that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Bill is a very good friend of mine, and I love his illustrations. I have quite a few of them that he's done for me over the years of different things that kind of like whether it's Godzilla or King Kong, and but this is like I think it's the best thing he ever did. It's phenomenal.
And this was cover to Hellboy Weird Tales 3. Yeah. I love it.
Just
Uh,
fantastic. Yeah, just fantastic. He nailed
and
it.
and yeah, as we can see, these pieces, many of the pieces are already framed, and so they would ship to the buyers framed as
Or
well.
we can unframe them,
Yeah,
whatever is convenient. I mean, you don't have to buy it framed. Just Guillermo framed these. I mean, it's like part of the thing. Like he picked the frame out. He went to the frame shop. I mean, so it's kind of, I would keep them in the frame, but that's up to you.
no, I think I would too.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
so here now we have some Struzen pieces.
These are incredible. So the funny part about it is, so imagine the studio is involved and like, you like who the greatest poster artist of the last 50 years does this campaign for you and the studio says, nah, use photographs. It's just like, but I mean, these are phenomenal, just phenomenal. Like he pulled out one and we ended up with three. I don't know how we ended up with three, but they're incredible. They're just this is my second favorite one. There's one I like more, but these are incredible.
Yeah, I think I picked them all just because I thought they were all great
Oh,
to
they're
see.
amazing. This one's incredible. This is my favorite one. Incredible. They're just yeah. And I think
Right, and
we opened these up at like 4,000. I was having this conversation with Dave Mandel. We opened them at $4,000 a piece, and Dave was laughing. He's like, huh, you know, I'll buy them now. But it's just like, where do you like? We again, this is where we were trying to make this. Like, there's some things obviously that are expensive, but we tried to make it accessible. Like we wanted to make a vast majority of this auction very accessible.
exactly, and Struzens are very hard to come by, obviously.
Especially at this quality. Yeah.
Right, right, and the thing is, it's cool that Struzan was considered to do the work because, I mean, to me, he is the film poster,
Oh my
creator
God.
of the last 30 years. I mean, every
Yeah.
major
Harry
action
Potter,
film
he did
from,
Harry Potter did everything. I mean,
how many Spielberg, paint,
all
Luke,
of
everybody wanted to work with Struzan, so he's the guy that Guillermo would want to work with too, even
yeah,
on something that's a Mignola property, right? I mean, it
yeah.
just makes sense.
And Guillermo had, had him do enough of these for a campaign to present to the studio to pick, the final key art, and they went with photograph.
Well, it it happens, I
Yeah, yeah,
guess.
yeah.
Could you imagine though these? Because I'm assuming these, because they're concept pieces, they're a little bit smaller, right? So just
No,
imagine
they're
what
big. I mean,
they are
they're
big
they're
too.
they're big.
Oh, they're 20 by 30, so they're
Yeah,
huge.
they're
Oh, well,
huge. No, no,
that
they're
totally changes my.
huge.
Wow.
Oh, they're not. They're finished. I mean, their concept in the set where he's going to the studio to pitch a campaign, but this would have been it. Like Drew would have we're probably going one more final, but these are
Hmm.
pretty finished, and they're huge.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen photos from Galactic Gallery in Texas where a lot of his pieces are on display, and
Sure.
the final final images are usually even a little bit bigger than that, it seems like, but
Absolutely. Yeah, bigger.
wow.
Yeah, he
Well,
worked
I guess
bigger.
I
No,
didn't
these are large, and the colors they're exceptional in person.
I'm jealous that you get to see them all. Now, Crumb is not who I was expecting to see in his collection. I know there are a couple crumbs in this one, so I don't
Yeah,
know if
yeah.
is that all of them, or is there
No,
is there
no, no.
more?
There's a crumb wall. And again, it was one of those things where it's like we tried to take something of every artist represented in the collection. I think we managed to do that. Maybe we missed something. I know there's no Kirby in the sale, so we definitely missed something. There are artists that aren't in the sale yet, but we tried to get as many as we could. And how could you not? How could you, in Guillermo's eyes, how could we not have Crumb?
Hmm.
It's such an important artist, and so these were ones that Guillermo could pick, and like these meant something to him when he acquired them. If they just weren't, oh, I'll just get one. At the time, there was, like this meant something to him in that moment, that good enough that he'd hang it on the wall.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, like you said, there are no Kirby. Can you tell us one title that of a Kirby artwork that he has, whether it's going to get sold or not? I'm just kind of curious. Like,
Well, it's
was
gonna it's
was it
gonna it's gonna be monsters.
it's
It's
gonna
gonna
be?
be
Well, that's what I
like
was thinking. It's got to be monsters, right? Okay. So, all right. Well, that there's a wide
there's no superheroes. There's no Captain America. It's going to be
right.
monsters. Think of Fing Fang Foom. They're
Of
monsters.
course.
Yeah,
All
those
right.
kind of monsters. That's what we get in Kirby,
Well, that's what I
monsters.
love to hear then, because those
Yes.
those are so much fun. From
Yeah.
Kirby's mind. I mean, that's
Yeah. Either way, we'll do. Like we'll do more videos next time. He'll be a little bit more accessible. And this was just like the crunch to get this done before he left for 6 months on the Frankenstein World Tour. It was tough.
well, that's going to be exciting to see.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think I've got maybe one more artwork and then just a couple more prop pieces related here. So this,
Another great stout.
yeah,
Just beautiful, very Rackham, but another really good stout. Just beautiful.
yeah. No, Guillermo has a wonderful eye for these pieces. Now, Guillermo's done. He's gotten a few awards in his time, and Shape of Water was a very memorable movie, probably for a lot of people who like his work. And there's some concept pieces. These are clay maquettes. I mean, these are like just busts of them, and I have the full figure image as well. But it's just amazing that how did he store these where they're able to, because these things are fragile in their own way, right?
They're pretty durable.
They are.
The way they're made, and they have pins in them that kind of keep the clay together. They're pretty, I mean, you can't bounce them around, but they're pretty durable.
Hmm.
They're not, it's not soft Play-Doh, but they're
Right.
again, and they're sealed. So, but again, it's part of the concept. If you look at the faces, the evolution, this was more like the one to my left, your right, Bill. That's the pinker color one is more closer to the final shape of the monster, but you could see the development. Remember, Guillermo worked on these movies for years. It wasn't like, oh, he's pitching studios. He's taking these to the studios in a pitch meeting. This is what it's going to look like. That's what these were made for. Like, this
Yeah.
is how we forget, like, we think like they're out there. There's lots of no's in the movie industry. He's hearing no, 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 no. He tried to make Haunted Mansion for 20 years. I mean, no, no, no. Hobbit 3 years, couldn't get that done. So there been, it's and this is how he would go out to the studios and give his idea to show an executive. This is the monster. So it evolved, as but this one obviously that we're showing now is the closest to what the finished Mike Hill, creation looked like.
Hmm. Yeah. And like you mentioned earlier, he's not much into CGI. A lot of so many of the effects and things are on
These
real.
are all practical effect on real
Yeah.
people, done this one's incredible, the old-fashioned way. Like, it's like, like, so Mike would come in and you could see kind of the pins in the body that stabilize the uh clay. You'll see
Yeah.
those. So those are kind of keeping it together. And again, very close to the finish, creature in Shape of Water. But beautiful. I mean, what a work of art. If you wanted something that crosses all the worlds, one of a kind, work of art, sculpture done by hand, Shape of Water, Guillermo, it's kind of checks a lot of boxes.
Yeah.
I
Again,
think
I'm
that
just
thing's either 12 or 18 inches tall. It's big.
that's just incredible. And thinking about it, so, he would have drawn these out, in advance of, getting them over to the sculptor, just giving,
Yeah,
with
so he would, like, Guillermo, like I told you, like, it's in his sketchbooks, he would sketch. Like,
Mhm.
Guillermo would come up with designs, and then, he would go to his team of artists and they would start sculpting. And, they'd show him things and he'd get refined and give him, by the time they got to this, these are final sculpts. So this is why he kept these. So this is what again, what he would have shopped, Shape of Water to studio executives with. And then once you're locked in a final concept, that would go to like Mike Hill, who did Shape of Water, to create the monster. But you'd have the thing about these in Guillermo's, his process is he wants to see the 360. Like
Right.
he wants the Mike well, he wants Mike Hill to see it because this is how he can shoot it, right? So it's not just a one-dimensional or two-dimensional thing. That's why Guillermo works in this format in all of his movies, so he can actually see how he would light it, how he would shoot it. So fascinating, all practical effects. When you see Frankenstein, you'll see the sets are epic. It's all practical effects.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that for sure. So the last two, pieces were from Hellboy. I just thought this was fun. I love, the Golden Army, and,
They're
he's one of my
awesome.
favorite characters in it, right?
They're
He just
awesome.
met a
Again, it's
great
like, yeah, they're awesome. They're, again, same thing, character studies. He'd probably work with Mike, developing, how you going to take a 2D comic book page, how do you turn that into a 3D movie, right? How do you bring these to life, keeping true to the mythology? And that's where you see Guillermo's greatness and his love to the craft of comics. Like he's so loyal to like where this came from, to be true to where these stories came from. And that's rare for a filmmaker. We've seen how people make, go in to make some bad DC movies over the years, right? Like, and so it's like,
Yes. Yes, indeed. And again, just these are just so much fun.
oh yeah, I think this thing is 2 feet tall. It's fantastic, just as a work of art. But again, production from Guillermo, beloved movie. I mean, and again, this is what we just tried to do: give you a glimpse into Bleak House. Guillermo's vision for you collectors is paint your walls oxblood, have a little Bleak House in the corner of your house. I mean, like he'd come paint it for you if he could. But that's like kind of like the thing he wanted to share that. Like how could we do this and share Bleak House? Like, and this is kind of what it is. You can have your own Bleak House.
Well, I had no idea this was 2 feet tall, but,
Oh,
the
it's
whole troll
amazing.
market was the one of the the whole movie was great, but the troll market was just fun. Feast for the eye.
Fantastic.
You just go back
Yeah.
and watch that, like, 15-minute segment of the
We
movie over
have that
and over, and you
giant
see the
hand
same.
that's like 5 feet tall.
Yeah.
Like it's like that was carried on the back, and and we've got like the prince and princess. We have their fighting swords. So we have the Hellboy section of props and costumes. We have the Hellboy jacket, which is one of the best things in the auction, the duster. So it's well represented.
Yeah, that's so much fun. So the last piece I picked was just back to, a piece
And
by Guillermo,
it's where it all started, right?
right, his first film and, him
Well, it's
doing
even
some of the
before that. This is how he's applying to Dick Smith School. This is even before this. There's no film. There's no nothing. This is conception art, of a vampire for an idea he has. This is how he got into Hollywood. This is how Necropolis got formed as a company. This was the birth of Guillermo del Toro. This is how he applied to Dick Smith's school. I mean, this is the art he submitted.
wow.
Yeah. It's in, and there's not much of it left. I mean, this was going into like things he's leaving for his kids. But again, I came over one day and he goes, "We need to have one because this is where it began. I was nobody when I did this. This is the beginning of Guillermo." And it's
Right.
like it's so
1987.
befitting a vampire, Kronos. It's like it's so like like it's so befitting to have something like this.
I haven't seen Kronos in a long time. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it.
It's really good. I mean, like there's some like again, if you haven't seen, if whoever hasn't seen Pan's Labyrinth in a long time, or if he's never seen it, I think that's his best movie. Go watch
Really?
that. Oh my God, you haven't seen it?
I saw it when it came out. I haven't
Oh
seen it
my
in a
God,
long time.
go watch
I
it
have to
again.
go back.
It's
I
it's
saw it at
his,
the theaters.
it's his best movie. It's phenomenal.
All right. No, that's no, I need to.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Well, well, Joe, it's dark in California now. I see behind you.
Nighttime here. Yeah, it's
It was like
nighttime here.
the
It's
sun was shining when we started, but yeah, I'm really excited for this auction. I really am, and maybe and now knowing that I knew there were going to be another part because this was part one, but knowing that there's two more that are going to be following this that have even more, interesting pieces from his collection coming out. I mean, it gives us something to
yeah,
look forward
and
to as
they'll be
well.
different. They'll be different. So like there were like when we the Shape of Maquette, the maquettes from Shape of Water. That's it. There'll be no
Yep.
more. So we try to like so if you want something, there's not another Hellboy duster. There's one jacket. There's one big baby. So like a lot of these things. There's one. There might be something different from Hellboy. Maybe next time we'll have a crown or something else. But there's no depth in a lot of these things. Like a lot of these things are one of one. You might get a different, like the Nightmare Before Christmas art. I don't know if he'll part with anymore because he only has two other ones, so probably no more of those. There will be more Corbin. There will be obviously. I don't know if we'll dip into the Magnolia art again heavily. Maybe a few pieces.
Hmm.
There'll be there are other films that we didn't extract as much from, and we'll probably go into like there's some bigger pieces that we'll have for some there'll be surprises coming, like very cool things. But like I mean, I hate to say it, but it is once in a lifetime. If you love this genre, I mean, this is your shot.
Exactly. Well, I'm looking forward to it. And again, the auction is the Friday after next, right?
Yes,
So
Friday
it's
for
on the
next.
26th. Does it start in the afternoon like most heritage auctions, or is there some kind of a
I think it
nuance? Because
starts at 11 o'clock. I'm not sure. I should know
okay,
that, but I think it starts at
I should
11
know that
o'clock.
too. But I apologize. I didn't check. I wasn't sure if potentially because of it being a Hollywood and entertainment auction, like maybe it might have
Our
a different.
auction started, entertainment auction start at 11 o'clock, but I have to, yeah, I have 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock, my assistant confirmed, but I have, so we have 52 departments at Heritage. 26 or 28 are under my domain. So we have at any given time, there's a lot of auctions going on.
More than it's funny. I mean, I got a reminder about there's a comic art auction that has like it's I don't know, it's like a showcase auction that's closing Thursday or Friday. You've been doing there's so many auctions going
Well,
on
just
at
think, but there's the Key From auction coming up. That's
the
another
key
one of my
front, right?
that's another one of my auctions. So it's like again another 90 lots of the most amazing comic art imaginable from another genre. But that's another curated kind of like special auction we have coming up.
Correct. Yeah, you had that. You had some pieces from Keith's collection at San Diego as
San
well, which is
Diego,
great to
yeah.
see. I've seen some of those pieces on CAF for years, but
Yeah.
never having seen them in person and getting to see them there.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that sales in mid-October, and we'll have a New York preview for that to coordinate with New York Comic Con. So that'll be closer to you. You can always pop
Mm.
over and see that. You can come to that party.
I could if I would be invited, right? I could go.
Yes, you'd be invited. But again, if anybody lives in Los Angeles, if you're in San Diego, you want to make the drive, come up and see it. It's all on display. If you're around Thursday night, anybody's welcome to come to the party from 6 to 8. But if you get a chance to come and see it, it's amazing. I mean, it's all we have 4,000 square feet of Bleak House all put together.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for doing this, Joe. For asking because this is like I say, these event kind of auctions don't happen too often, and Guillermo's collection is just it's fantastic. I mean, he's sharing all of his life, all of his creative life with us through this, and I think it's wonderful, and again,
Yeah.
I'm glad that he's working with Heritage on it.
Yeah, thank you for having us. And it's just fun to do, but enjoy your hobby.
Exactly. Well, everybody who's been watching, thank you very much. I was going to state at the beginning of the show, we were actually one subscriber away from 7,500, and it happened during the show. So whoever was the
Oh, that's awesome.
7,500th subscriber to our channel, thank you. Whomever you were watching the show tonight, we sincerely appreciate
Bill's
it.
going to give you $10,000, so just email him. It's a perk now. So you didn't know this is a Bill Cox giveaway tonight. So
Right,
email him.
exactly. Yes, my email is well, no, never mind. All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. Have a wonderful night. We'll be back at it again tomorrow night. But Joe, thank you as well
You're
for
welcome.
coming in here and doing this with us. It was a pleasure.